Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on cloud computing. Today, my guest is from OnApp. We have Kosten Meteweli, who is CMO of the company. So, Kosten, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So Kosten, we've talked before, but OnApp is new to me. But I have read a lot about federated clouds. Um, what can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Well, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk a bit about what OnApp's up to in the federated cloud. So we've got a few slides here that I'd like to walk you through. So thank you for the introduction. I'm CMO at OnApp, and OnApp is a rapidly growing company based out of the UK, the US, and with offices in the Ukraine and Malaysia. And we've been focusing on this federated cloud. So let's talk a little bit first about what the problem space actually is. So if you go on to the next slide. Today's applications are inherently global, so the sorts of applications that are moving to cloud are things like gaming, media applications, e-commerce, social media, and these applications are, by their very nature, global applications. It's very rare that you find this sort of application that only needs to operate on a local basis. But if you're a service provider trying to provide the hosting capability or the cloud hosting capability that underlies these applications, what's the impact on them? So if you go on to the next slide, the problem is that most service providers are actually locally based, and that could be within a single location, across a couple of locations in a single geography. It's not that common that you get service providers across a large number of geographies on a global basis. So obviously there are a few standouts, and certainly in the cloud infrastructure as a service market, Amazon are clearly the big player. So you've got Amazon with over 50% of the infrastructure as a service market across 20 plus availability zones, so 20 plus geographies, so for any other cloud provider, it's extremely difficult to compete with that. What we've seen is that for any enterprise, they typically have to, if they're not deploying in a global service provider, they typically have to use 3 or more cloud service providers or hosting providers in order to deliver their application on a global basis. So let's look a little bit more about what that means for the service provider as they try to meet the needs of their customers. So if you go on to the next slide, the cost of actually delivering that sort of global infrastructure is extremely high. It requires a massive capital expenditure to actually get there. So as the number of data center locations increases, the capital costs of actually building out that infrastructure obviously increase massively. As you can see here, it's kind of at least linear, but actually it's worse than linear because you have to obviously the task of tying together those different data centers incurs extra management cost and complexity. So if you've got Amazon up there at the top of the chart with their 20 availability zones, how do you as a service provider sitting in a single geography compete with that? How do you actually globalize your service without having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on building out infrastructure? So if you go on to the next slide, that's why we think that the future of cloud is federated. So a federated cloud is one where we have local cloud providers clubbing together in order to deliver a seamless global service to their end customers. If you go on to the next slide, this is what we at OnApp have been focusing on building out. And although we are a relatively young company, what we have been able to achieve to date is build out a cloud federation of over 800 clouds being delivered by over 300 cloud providers with over 50 CDN points of presence across more than 20 countries. So we've been building out this federation on a very rapid basis. And as I say, it includes service providers on pretty much every continent. So moving on to the next slide, what's important is that this cloud federation is all based upon a common platform. So at the heart of it, we have our OnApp Cloud product, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, supported by some value-added services around the outside, like OnApp Storage, OnApp CDN. Just to talk a little bit more about those, if you move on to the next slide, OnApp Cloud. OnApp Cloud is the basic cloud platform that provides the automation, user management, billing capabilities, failover, auto-scaling, etc., that enable you to deliver the basic infrastructure as a service capability that a cloud provider needs. So pretty much gives you, all of those capabilities, very quick to deploy, easy to manage, easy to integrate. To go on to the next slide, we also provide OnApp CDN. This is a relatively new offering from OnApp that allows you to use your own infrastructure as a service provider to deploy your own CDN points of presence, and then to globalize your CDN by buying capacity from a marketplace. It then allows you to monetize the spare capacity that you have within your own data center by contributing that spare capacity to the OnApp CDN marketplace, so other service providers can take advantage of it. What that means is at the end of the day, you get a check every month for the CDN usage that other service providers have pushed through your spare capacity. So what would have been sitting there idle and gathering dust to some extent in your data center is now actually monetized. So really turning the CDN market on its head. No longer do you actually have to resell services from the likes of Akamai, Limelight, etc. Instead, you can build your own CDN with far better margins and offer your customers a far better price point. Not only that, but you can really have it your own. You can really build it. Build exactly what your customers need. So if they want a CDN, if any particular customer wants a CDN that covers, say, New York, London, Paris, and Tokyo, then then a custom CDN can be built for that customer that will deliver that. So allows you to be extremely responsive, extremely granular in how you do this. So moving on to the next slide, we provide all those core capabilities that a cloud provider needs to deliver a cloud service, but then we connect it all with a global marketplace. So this is how we tie the federation together. The global marketplace consists of buyers. So those are service providers who need to expand their reach. They have a single agreement with us OnApp, and they get access to a global market with instant fulfillment. So as soon as they buy capacity from somewhere else and from another provider, that is instantly fulfilled, and they only have to deal with us OnApp as the broker in the middle. If you're a seller, then you're sitting there with spare capacity in your data center. And bear in mind, any cloud provider has to have kind of 20% of their infrastructure sitting there idle for failover purposes and for auto scaling. So how do you take advantage of that while it's not being used? You contribute it to the marketplace, and this allows you to resell that capability on a global basis. It generates a new revenue stream for you, and again, you only have to deal with OnApp, so it makes it extremely simple. Of course, buyers can be sellers at the same time. So I could have a data center in London and want to globalize my offering to San Francisco. I can do that through the marketplace, but I might also want to be able to offer my spare capacity in London to the market, which I can do as well. So I can be a buyer and a seller at the same time. So it makes this federation extremely powerful. So moving on to the next slide, what this does is really changes the game in terms of how cloud providers deliver a global capability. If you think about this chart that we looked at earlier, where the capital costs rise massively as I increase the number of locations I'm trying to deliver my service across, what we're doing is saying, actually, as you increase the number of locations, your capital cost pretty much remains flat, because all you're doing is buying additional capacity on a pay-per-use basis from the OnApp marketplace. So if I want to globalize my offering across different markets, I simply go and buy that capacity on demand from the marketplace and pay for it as I consume it. So this really is a game changer in how global is delivered. So moving on to the next slide, we think this offers a better alternative to for example, Amazon's to the way that Amazon does this. Because you're working with local service providers, you have more choice. It's not a one size fits all. You go to Amazon, you get your small, medium, large, extra small, extra large, whatever it is, choices of server. With OnApp powered cloud providers, you have a massive choice in how that's actually done, and you can have much more flexibility. It also unlocks much more innovation. So whereas if I want to, for example, have SSD storage on my server that I've got at Amazon, then Amazon may say yes, that's something we're going to look at doing in the future. I can go to my local service provider running an OnApp powered cloud and say I want SSD storage, and they'll have it for you tomorrow. And of course, more presence. So Amazon has their 20 plus availability zones. We're talking about 300 service providers globally and increasing. We actually spin up 2 clouds a day at the moment, is the rate we're sort of growing. And what that means is, we have providers that contribute to the OnApp marketplace sitting in Iceland, for example. Now, you'd be hard pressed as a traditional CDN provider, if you're Akamai or Limelight or one of those guys, to build out a data center in Iceland. However, because of this federated model, it means we have that out of the box. So, just to give you a tiny bit about some of the background to OnApp, if you move on to the next slide. These are our two key products: OnApp Cloud, OnApp CDN. I mentioned OnApp Storage, and that's something. It's a new product that we're coming out with in the very near future. So watch this space. We've been around for a couple of years now, and we have over 300 service provider customers. We're over 100 employees, actually, in offices in Europe and the US and Asia Pacific region. We've deployed over 800 clouds to date, and as I said, that increases at the pace of 2 clouds a day. So that's OnApp. And have you got any questions?
Yeah, sure, Kosten. I mean, I guess the first one that comes to mind is, do you have your own data center as part of this federation?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we are very much we sit at the heart of this federation. We provide the software, we provide the software, and we provide the marketplace. But we're not in the business of providing providing the services themselves. That's what all the participants, that's what all the cloud providers who participate in this federation do. We think it's really important that we don't actually have any conflicts of interest there. Obviously there are cloud platforms in the market that are associated with specific cloud providers. We think that gets a little bit difficult for a cloud provider to buy their cloud platform from what is a competitor. We'd rather be agnostic about it.
So you mentioned comparison to Amazon AWS. Is that basically the competition? Is there another world federated cloud that you're up against?
I mean, at the moment, there are people have tried. So companies have tried to deliver a marketplace for cloud in the past, and so Spot Cloud is a good example of that. But really, those have never taken off. I think what's made the OnApp Cloud Federation take off is the fact that we've been extremely pragmatic about it, but also the fact that we have really focused on one problem space, which is thinking about the service providers and making sure that our product meets their needs down to a T. That's how we've been able to spin up, 300 cloud providers on a global basis, which is kind of 10 times the number of customers that the nearest cloud platform can claim. So, I think that that in itself is sort of one of the things that you need to make a marketplace work. It's having that critical mass. So we've got the right product. We have the critical mass of service providers that make a market work, and that's why we've been able to spin up, for example, 50 CDN PoPs in our marketplace in the space of a couple of months of that product being available.
So, Kosten, is this just for global companies, or would there be advantages even for a company that's like, isolated to one region? Would they still find some value in what you guys are offering, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we work with service providers. We work primarily with service providers, so we provide our capability to the cloud providers themselves, who then sell on to and who then provide their cloud capability to enterprises. For a service provider, it's still valuable to be part of the federation, because even if they don't want to globalize their own offering, they still have this. First of all, we still have a very capable cloud platform that will enable them to deliver a better than Amazon AWS service. That's kind of that's just kind of the table stakes here. But as I said, every cloud provider does have some spare capacity in their environment that's sitting there doing nothing. And so even for a local cloud provider who's got no interest in offering a global service, they can still contribute their spare capacity to the marketplace, allow other cloud providers, for example, in the UK, in Germany, in Japan, to take advantage of that spare capacity, get a check on the map every month for the utilization of that capacity, and it's a new revenue stream for them. So there's every reason for a local provider to take advantage of this. Yes.
And kind of a wrap-up question here, Kosten. What's the call to action on the two sides of your customer base? You've got the service providers, right, and the people that would need the services. How do they engage with you?
So we are in order to get started, it's a very simple process. So customers who are interested can come to OnApp.com, and we've got simple instructions for getting started with an OnApp Cloud. It's actually extremely simple. We bundle all of the services that are required to get the product installed, configured, and indeed integrated with your billing system. We include all of those costs in the basic OnApp pricing, and so it's extremely quick, simple, and low cost to get up and running with the product. For a service provider, for someone who's looking to take up a cloud service, they can also come to OnApp.com, and we have a listing there of a large number of our service provider customers. So if you're looking to take advantage of an OnApp Cloud, then we do have those listings on our website.
Well, great, Kosten. I've come up with my own term for this. I'm going to refer to you guys as the OverCloud. I think from now on.
Hey, I like it.
You like that? All right. Well, you can use that. Anyway, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show today.
Great. Well, thank you very much indeed. It's been great.
You bet. Okay, folks. That's it for the Rich Report. Stay tuned for more news and information on the world of cloud computing.